Welcome to the College Football Bros. I'm Michael Newman.
I'm Ryan Newman.
And I'm Trey Newman.
All right, in this episode, we're going to go over 9 of the biggest losers from the 2021 recruiting cycle. We also just released an episode with the actually 10 biggest winners. So go ahead and check that out. Let us know in the comments who you thought had the worst class this year, at least relative to expectations. But let's get to our 9 teams here. So Trey, get us started.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Penn State. They had the 21st ranked class, which doesn't sound all that bad, but it was actually 6th in the Big Ten. So the gap between them and Ohio State in the East Division is growing. And heck, they were behind Maryland in the East as well. The Terps kind of ate into their DMV recruiting a bit, but it's the worst class since 2014. And that was when they were kind of coming out of the Sandusky issues with Bill O'Brien. And what was surprising, though, is how they didn't do all that great in the state of Pennsylvania compared to years past. They only got 2 players out of the top 15 there. I mean, Pitt got 3 of those 3 guys. They only got 3 or 4 out of the top 30. So it was the worst year on the field for James Franklin, and now a poor class by their standards. So he's already recruiting it or killing it in 2022, but it's very early. So they need to show some on-field success to get that momentum back.
Yeah, and they're going to be counting on some transfers to kind of bolster this haul. So we'll see how that works out. But next loser here, Colorado, finishing 65th in the country, 10th in the Pac-12. And
I always feel like that Buffalo is crying.
It does look like it's crying.
It's a tear.
Yeah.
We had a bad class.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so last year, Mel Tucker's first full class was finished 35th. So he was off to a good start. And Carl Durrell, of course, was hired late February last year. So kind of got off to a late start, especially when you consider the pandemic hit soon after. So he wasn't able to really, maybe build the relationships, at least in person, with these recruits. But still, I mean, to only get 1 player ranked in the top 600 for Colorado, that's not great. I'm sure Durrell will do better next year, especially after a good season on the field, but rough start.
Yeah, that's puts you behind the 8 ball a little bit there. All right, here, let's move on to my first loser. South Carolina finishing at 77th, dead last. They're in the SEC. It is a small class, and normally you can forgive, the lower ranking due to having a small class, but they only finished ahead of Vanderbilt as far as average ranking per recruit. So it was a small class, and the recruits just weren't that good. They didn't have a single 4-star, and even the 3-stars they got, they weren't highly rated. They weren't like borderline 4-stars. It just was not a good class in any shape or form. It's kind of a rough start there for Shane Beamer. Maybe Beamer didn't quite bring the home run hire type of culture, type of excitement that maybe the South Carolina would have hoped. So he's going to need to put some product on the field next year to kind of turn that around. Obviously it was a weird year. He didn't get to build the relationships in short season, and they just struggled. So that he was definitely dealt a tough hand, but you need to do better in 77th. So need some turnaround there.
Okay. Trey, what you got next?
I've got the Auburn Tigers. They're sitting at 30th, which is only good for 11th in the SEC. So obviously, similar to South Carolina, it's going to be a down year when you fire your head coach and there's that transition. But Tennessee actually was able to weather the storm pretty decently. Auburn did not. And right before Malzahn was fired, there was a slew of guys that they were in the driver's seat. A 5-star linebacker, Terrence Lewis, a couple other 4-stars, a couple 3-stars. They ended up getting none of those guys. This is a program where even when they've had coaching transitions over the last 20 years, they consistently hover around the top 10 in that recruiting class ranking. And so this is their worst class since 2004. So as a rough one for Auburn.
Yeah, that whenever you're making the decision to fire a coach, you also have to take into account the fact that you're probably not going to have a great class either. So kind of a double whammy there. But moving on to my next loser, Virginia Tech. They finished 45th nationally, 10th in the ACC, which if it were a small class, you could certainly forgive. But they took 27 players. You can see 27 3-stars there. That's one of, if not the biggest class in the country. There weren't, generally class sizes were a bit smaller this year. So when you combine that with the fact that last year their recruiting class was ranked 76th, you're going to start to see the talent on this roster get worse and worse as those players become the bulk of it. So Justin Fuente, his seat is hot, and you would think it's only going to get hotter because I don't see how he's going to win 10, 11 games with recruiting like this.
Yeah, no, that's quite a disappointment. We like Fuente as a coach. Just doesn't seem to be working out there in Blacksburg for sure.
Yeah.
All right, my second loser here. I got the Stanford Cardinal. You can see there their national rank was 51st, 8th in the Pac-12. It's their lowest since 2012. But that year they only took like 12 kids, so it was a very, very small class. So this is the worst they've had in quite a long time, and only one 4-star. And it just seems like David Shaw's kind of lost whatever mojo was given to him by Jim Harbaugh. This year they did go 4-2, which was a positive for them, but it was like, as we all kind of know, it was a very fortunate 4-2. They won a lot of close games. So they just aren't doing that well on the field. They aren't recruiting well. It seems like their recruiting's getting worse and worse each year. Kind of like Fuente. It just seems like sooner or later Shaw's days will be done there on the farm.
Could be doom and gloom from the bros.
Very I like Shaw's losers episode.
I like Shaw's chances better than Fuente to be around there for a few more years for sure.
Fair enough.
Yep. All right. My last loser is the Arizona State Sun Devils. They were 48th overall. It's good for 7th in the conference, and it's their worst since 2011 for the Sun Devils. Now, I will preface it that there is the caveat that we've kind of alluded to, that they did take a smaller class this year for a variety of reasons, but still a lower ranked class than they would have liked. Potentially one of the concerns that we had with Herm Edwards, he overachieved a little bit early on, but he's going to need to build on that now. He had that big year with Jaden Daniels in year one or a couple years ago, and there seemed to be really strong momentum to have ASU be propelled into a major contender in the South, and especially after the 23rd ranked class last year. I mean, they still can, of course, but this immediate recruiting class doesn't indicate they would necessarily sustain it much.
Yeah, I'm bullish on them heading into next year. They got a lot of returning production, so could be a big year.
Good.
All right, next loser for me is Oregon State, 108th, the worst ranked Power 5 class, of course, last in the Pac-12. Again, the caveat we keep bringing up, they only took 10 players, so they are another team that has a lot of returning production coming back next year. But still, like, even though you're taking a small class, you don't have a ton of room. You would hope that the per recruit kind of ranking that you would have a higher average player coming in, but that wasn't really the case. It was kind of the same average star rating as previous years under Jonathan Smith. So, not time to panic, but you wish you would have done better as an Oregon State fan.
Yeah, and they showed some signs of life on the field this year too. But
it ended poorly, but but they beat Oregon, right? So,
and they've had some success as far as lately. It seems like Smith's done a great job turning them around.
Yeah, a lot
making
more
them competitive
for sure.
All right, let's go to my last loser here. The Texas Longhorns. You see their national rank that's 17th, which is good for 2nd in the Big 12. But it's the worst class they've had since Tom Herman's transition class. So about 4 years back. We kind of touched on this, I guess, privately. We were talking about how there just wasn't a lot of obvious losers on the recruiting front this year because there is some small classes and it's just a weird year. But if I'm just looking at Texas and I just see 17th when Herman was pulling in top 3, top 5, elite classes. And of course, Mac Brown before that was killing it as well. You see 17 with all the advantages, with all the talent you have in there. That's not good enough. 17 isn't good enough. So it's just disappointing to see that. I mean, I know Sarkisian transition year, he's probably going to do a lot better next year. But when I had to just put this because there's really never an excuse for Texas not to be in the top 10 with all the advantages they have. So
yeah. Transition classes can be hard, but you're right. Texas is Texas. So
yeah, it should sell itself.
Yeah, you would think we talked about on our podcast episode, which, by the way, subscribe to our podcast as well. Well, we were setting the over-under for their ranking next year. What'd you set it at, Ryan?
I set it at 7, I think it was.
7?
Yeah.
I think they'll do better. I think it's a good over-under, but I think they'll do better.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
very well could.
We'd all be shocked if they didn't finish in the top 10.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that'll do it for your recruiting losers. Again, let us know in the comments anyone we missed, which team you thought did the worst. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoy our content. Subscribe here, both, like I said, here on YouTube and in your podcast app. And we will see you next time.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.